Hey guys, what's up? It's Stacking Chairs, youth ministry podcast, all about serving in youth ministry. Whether it be youth group or youth camp, whatever God has you serving in, that's what we're talking about. I'm joined by my host. My name's, oh my gosh, this is the first time I've messed up.
Hi, my name is Josh Paul Hamus.
I'm joined by my fellow host and good friend, Kyle Gray.
But you don't normally say my name.
Oh yeah, oh my goodness.
Wow,
We have
Josh.
to restart the episode.
Oh my goodness.
I feel completely lost. No,
That's okay.
All right.
Hey, listen, Josh, sometimes that's the way it rolls when you're involved in youth ministry or
Yeah.
camp or the Bible Institute.
Yeah.
Hey, speaking of camp,
Yeah.
I brought one of my interns here today.
Fantastic.
This guy, his name is
James Koch.
James. It has been through first year, second year at the Word of Life Bible Institute. By the way, you ought to check out the Word of Life Bible Institute.
Come on.
But then James decided to stick around for at least a year and be on the camps team. So
Yeah.
James, tell us a little bit about yourself. Where are you from? What's your favorite color? If you had to pick a number between 1 and 73,000, what would it be?
Deal. All right. So like I said, my name is James Koch. I'm originally from Alabama, the greatest state in this country. dare I say.
Oh, I was gonna.
that how-
I was gonna
yeah,
ask
isn't that
about a
Alabama?
certain game that recently may or may not have happened, but we don't go by time. So go ahead, James.
Come on.
The Vols game that I don't know about.
As if this is gonna launch before somebody watches the game and knows the result.
Yeah, we don't want to ruin it.
This is very uncomfortable.
Gonna
Anyway,
go back in time.
I'm from Alabama. Oh, I got a little close to the mic there. My bad, Josh.
You can.
I'm originally from Alabama, and my favorite color, let me think. My favorite color is probably blue, pretty basic.
Not
pretty boring.
crimson red.
Not crimson red. I'm not an Alabama fan at all. I actually prefer to see them lose every time. All the time.
Wow.
So
We just lost like a certain percentage of our audience.
sorry, guys.
Two or
They
three.
probably just completely stopped
They didn't hear
listening.
you. Yeah, they didn't hear you say something.
Yeah.
Number between 1 and 73,000, probably 4.
This is a lot.
James,
about you,
James,
I think.
why are you here on the camps team? Like, what was? Because you had a couple different options in front of you
Yeah.
of things that you could have done,
Yeah.
and yet you chose to be with the master. No. I was going to try to quote The Office. So you'll come to see, but I forget what he said. So
Yeah.
good.
No, I don't know. It was going into first year, I really only saw myself as a musical guy. I didn't really see myself as someone who would, get on stage and act like a fool, I guess, and just do it for the sake of camp. Did I say no?
No, you're fine. We're just enjoying the conversation.
Oh, goodness. Okay.
James is a little nervous.
I'm
I
not
think.
nervous.
James,
By the
you're
way,
nervous.
I never get
in
nervous.
case you're wondering, like, I wonder what face Josh or Kyle just made. You can watch these
Oh yeah, on YouTube.
on
Yeah, check it
YouTube,
out.
and so would love to have
And
you
last
join
week,
us on YouTube.
if you would have watched, you would have seen a stunt because Axon was asking for stunts. We did a stunt, Kyle, while you were gone.
I know. I'm sorry. I
told you about it,
I was
but-
in Georgia.
I know.
You did tell me about it.
I know.
But hey, so James, so you're here. What have you done at camp? Why do you love camp? What's the heartbeat of camp? And then Josh has got some more specific questions.
Sure. So for my first year and my second year summer, I was part of the program team, which basically that entails being kind of the MC guys when it comes to running rallies or when it comes to running games. So we kind of plan out games, whether it's big outdoor games, whether it's indoor rally games. We plan that, we facilitate that, and then we kind of just bring that energy and bring that fun side to camp. So it was a really, really cool opportunity because campers see you a lot, and so it opens the door for a lot of really cool interaction, a lot of really cool conversations. And so that's what I've been doing the last 2 summers, and ultimately our heartbeat behind camp is we say it every week before the campers get here, but we do want to see every life reach and change for eternity, and that doesn't just start with our program guys. It starts with our counselors, and it starts with our camp crew. It starts with camp directors like yourself. Every single person in camp ultimately is here because we all follow and we all agree with that same heartbeat, and that's what we want to see accomplished. And so,
Yeah. Well, so often on this show, we talk about, when we say youth ministry, we talk often about youth group and church dynamics. But in the opening of the show, we say whether it be youth group or youth camp. And so today we want to specifically talk about what's the planning process look like? What's that preparation process look like? Whether it be the spiritual side of the preparation, the actual preparation, the physical side of it. What's that look like when getting ready for camp? So I haven't been on the back end of that aside from I've done the media side.
Yeah.
We've done plenty of planning with media.
Yeah.
But when it comes to actually running a camp, I think I have 2 people here who have a very...
They're about to come in right now. We
we have 2 other people coming in. Thank goodness they're here on time. No, that wasn't.
I was late today.
That wasn't the joke.
Late. That was a shot across the bow.
Oh man,
that was
inside joke.
That was not intended.
You should have a
press
little
the button.
Yeah.
Yeah. Where's the? Oh, I just rim shot.
That's all I wanted. All I wanted was that button.
So yeah, no, and here's the crazy thing. So I have a an administrative assistant, secretary, whatever you want to call him, and she just started with us. She just started with us in the fall, and she told me yesterday. She said, "You know, it's so funny." I was just thanking her. I said, "You know, you've really jumped in with both feet. You've helped out." There was even one day that she was like, "Hey, I ran out of stuff to do. What else can I do today?" And I was like, "That's how you know you have somebody that's like on your team that's excited about what they're doing when they're like, I'm looking for more stuff to do."
Yeah. Shout out to Susanna, man.
Susanna, and it's Sus. And she said, I was waiting for that. And she said, you know what's funny is I'm looking at all that I'm doing now and I'm realizing how much goes into camp prep. Yeah. And I said, I said, there's really a whole lot. When I have said before on this podcast and other people that most of you out there in youth ministry, you plan where you're going to camp in that August, September, October date for next summer. And there's so many people that just don't believe me. And she said, my mom knew that I was working with winter camp and with summer camp. And she said, and so my mom was like, so they're hiring you now, but like, are you just not going to show up until January? Like, what are you going to do? Like, why are you moving over there? Yeah. And I was like, so you see now there's a whole lot that goes in. Yeah. We actually, one of the things I have James doing now, and would love to hear from you in the comments if you have, but they're on the phones, they're calling people, they're interacting, they're talking to people about scholarships. And part of it is us getting on and finding what are new churches that we can reach out to that either just don't know about us or whatever. And I actually saw a church that had on their calendar that they were going to a camp already. And I was like, I've never heard of this camp before. I went to that camp's website. That camp was like, I'm so sorry. We are completely sold out and you can be on the waiting list. And I thought, you know, in some ways I thought, man, how awesome of a place would that be? But that's why, because people do, they plan out. There's a lot that goes into it. It's a full year round job.
Out that quickly.
Yeah.
Well, so that does take me to my first question. We've talked about like, you know, the heartbeat. You talked about that really briefly, but I think really succinctly and well, saying like, hey, we're here because we want to see lives change for eternity. Like that's the heartbeat for camp. But so let's go past that. Let's talk about what does that planning process actually look like? You're planning for winter camp. You're planning for summer camp. What does the planning process look like now? This episode launches in October, recorded in October. So we can say, you know, that you have a little bit of context. Sure. October for winter camp, October to summer camp. Yep. What are you guys doing right now, aside from getting on the phone and talking to youth leaders?
Yeah, well, I will say...
Is that the majority of what you're doing? That's a lot.
As of right now, I mean, it is because like Kyle said, it's crazy the amount of churches that I've called specifically about winter camp, which is in 3 months. And I said, hey, like we would love to see you come to our Pursuit camp. And they say, oh, well, I really haven't thought about Pursuit camp, but we're already signed up for summer camp the next year. And and that's September. And I'm like, wow, it's crazy. Like Kyle said, people are already planning what they're going to do for the summer. They're already planning and so part of it is just getting on the phones, and it's you're trying to pitch the idea of camp, but you're also you just want to build a relationship with these people.
Yeah, absolutely.
You want to have that point of connection, and in hopes that when they come to camp, you can see them, you can interact with them, and be like, hey, we talked on the phone, and you're here now, and it's really great to see you and stuff like that. So a lot of the practical side of it is, you know, it's on the phones, it's calling, it's connecting, but also there's other things like recording videos, promo videos, you know, going out and doing crazy stuff to promote the idea of camp. Like, you know,
you and I are working on one this week.
Yep, we are working on one this week.
Well, but and the other side, James, I'd love for you to kind of get into a little bit is in some ways, let me be absolutely clear. In some ways, I understand that right now, these guys kind of feel a little bit like on the phone salesmen.
Sure.
There's a little bit of like, hey, I'm calling you. I'm telling you about our camp. And, you know, even when I call somebody, I try not to have my voice. Hi, how you doing? This is Kyle Gray, camp director. Blah, 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 blah.
How we like get made fun of for like having our podcast. I often get made fun of for, Josh, your voice changes when you get on the microphone.
Yeah, you know what I'm talking about. My voice
I don't notice that I'm doing it, but
the mic definitely changes it.
Does it change it?
Well, it's an ambiance. But James, Why do we call? Like, what are some specific things that you do with every single person that you talk to so that you're not just telling them about camp, but you're trying to really connect with those people?
Yeah, definitely. So, I mean, I always ask them, like, the first thing before I get into any idea, I just ask them, I say, hey, are you doing anything with your youth group to kick off the new year? Are you doing anything for the summer? Is there a way that you're getting your students involved and getting your students connected, not only with your youth leaders, but with each other? Yeah. And so I ask them questions like that. And I always ask them, when the conversation is over, I say, hey, how can I pray for you? Oftentimes I'll pray with them right there on the phone because it just is so much more of a connection point when it's one thing to get on the phone and kind of sell this idea of camp and say, like, here's why I think you should come here. But when you go a step further and you show that intentionality of, hey, like, more so than just trying to pitch you this idea, I really want to get to know you. I really want to, at the end of the day, I want to connect with you, and I want to be here as an encouragement, not only to you and to your youth leaders, but also to your students.
Well, and you also get to partner with some of those churches and like go to some of them sometimes as well. So like, why do that in your opinion?
Yeah. It's just when they can see you, like there's just something about when you can see them face to face, when you can go to a church, when you can be able to be there in front of the students, when you can kind of bring a little taste of what you do, a little taste of camp to them. I think it just means a lot more. And so even now, like we're booking churches for December, for March, like coming up later in the year. I've talked to people already, and I'm going to talk to more people about, hey, how can we put ourselves out there? How can we not just go and promote camp, but go and just build those relationships?
Well, yeah, and you're furthering that partnership and that relationship for sure.
Well, I don't think that you can't explain this concept, and it's wild. Recently I was up in Georgia. I went up to go visit a couple churches.
Go Dogs.
And I walk in to these two different churches, and actually I have a story for a small group.
Nice.
But you walk into these churches and these kids are like, whoa, you're the guy at youth camp. and you realize let's be completely honest. Yeah. We've all done that. Well, I shouldn't say many of us have done that with other people. And if there was a certain person that walked in that room, why? Because there was a memory, there was an experience, there was a life change, there was something. Here's the deal. Kyle Gray is not that special of a guy. I mean, outside of what my mom thinks, and my wife thinks, and hopefully my kids think.
We think you're special.
Thank you, Josh. I appreciate that.
I like you.
I'm sorry, I was talking this side of the table. But for that kid, when you walk in and they're like, you're associated with that place that I've seen life change. And again, it's not creating a celebrity. It's providing an opportunity that I tell our people all the time. In fact, in some ways from the stage, I'm one of the worst salesmen in the world, because I tell people all the time, you don't need a meeting to have a moment with Jesus. Yeah. You don't need youth camp. Although I do think you could prove that Jesus went camping with the disciples.
We've talked about that.
But it's kind of one of those things of it's an opportunity to step out. You get to experience stuff that you normally don't do. Mm-hmm. You put away your cell phone for a week. Mm-hmm. You focus in on the Word of God. Yeah. You laugh. You have fun. You interact with people, and something special happens. And so then when somebody from that special place steps in, that's why I love having these guys like James, who's willing to get up and to razzle dazzle from the stage and make people laugh and build relationships. But he's also willing to get down and teach a Devo or to have a one-on-one conversation. And that's something that honestly, we've been incredibly blessed the last number of years of having a program team, a group of guys that get it. If you've ever spent any amount of time on stage, whether you're in a band or you're a speaker or you've done program things, it can take a lot out of you. I mean, you can get up there and you can run 10, 15 minutes worth of games, and then you get down and you're just like, oh my goodness, why am I so like exhausted? Well, because you've just put your energy and your effort and your heartbeat into this thing, and you've kind of laid yourself out in the line. And we've all been there when somebody's gotten up and it has not gone well. Yeah. And you're like, oh my goodness, can I tell you, I feel bad for those people, because sometimes it's harder and more taxing when the people aren't into it as just as much as it is when they are into it. Yeah. But you step off, and can I tell you, these guys don't go and sleep in their little house that they live in. Now, sometimes they do, and I think that it's important that they do. Yeah. But most times they're down walking around the campers, having conversations with counselors, interacting with them. Why? That's the same reason why they go to youth group. That's the same reason why they'll show up. That's the same reason why James is on the phone seeking to pray with people, not just promote camp, because it's a ministry.
So what you're saying is the first step of preparation is building relationships.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Most people out there go to a camp that they have had a relationship with or an experience with.
Yep.
Most of the time, or Josh, you're willing to go to camp because you trust James and James had an experience and you're like, dude, I'm looking for a place for my kids to have a moment with Jesus. And I think and we've talked about this, Josh, but there's two different ways to look at it. I think in one way, hey, it's vitally important for us to be the people that pour into our kids. And it's important for us to be the people that are the ones. I don't personally subscribe to that. I think you're stunting your kids' opportunity. I think you're stunting your kids' growth of, it's all in-house. And let me say this, even if you have problems, even if you have hardships, even if you have situations where it doesn't go well, it's okay to have somebody else come alongside and help you shoulder the load. And to walk through that, honestly, and I hate even going there, but there's sometimes I get it. You're not now the guy up on stage preaching. You're not now the guy. But you know what? For you to take a breather and to stop, it's okay. I have yet to have a kid walk up and go, my youth pastor is just an absolute tool, but you guys here at camp, you're no, you know what? Most of the times they are, youth pastor, you brought us here. Oh man, that's awesome, man. Thank you. So, and that's our opportunity to connect back with those kids. And the other side is, allowing an outside organization to partner with you.
Yeah. Well, I think that's the biggest part of what camp is. Camp is a partnership. Like that relationship is built up so you can foster a partnership. I mean, camp is not there to take and to instill something different. It's to corroborate.
You can't stack chairs on your own, Josh.
You can't stack chairs on your own. We bring everything back to stacking chairs, James.
Yeah. Everything. Everything that you say.
Yeah, absolutely.
Makes sense.
So we've talked about that whole relationship aspect. That's the first. That's that foundation of the planning process. Okay, let's get into some might think it's boring, but the practical, the nitty gritty.
The nitty gritty.
What does it look like to build the nitty gritty? I got that. All right. Sorry. What does it take to build a schedule for reference? If you guys don't know, the Coast has nearly 4,000 campers for the summer. And Pursuit Camp has how many per weekend?
All the weekends? 240.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So each weekend is about 240, 250
Get registered
kids.
for camp.
Yeah. Get registered for camp before it fills up. There are some weeks that are already really filling up.
There are some weeks that are already very full.
But you have literally thousands of kids coming through this campus trying just to figure out how to keep them entertained, how to keep them well fed physically and spiritually is a task and a half. We just had, we talked about a conference that we do with our international team yesterday. That's a 10-day conference. And just the amount of planning we did and then overviews of surveys and everything that we did for a 10-day conference that happens every few years, you guys have to do for an entire summer, an entire winter worth of camp. So with my big preface that I just built up, how the heck do you build a schedule to keep people engaged? What's that look like? What do you start with?
Yeah, I mean, I can talk from the programmatic
side. And
aspect.
we defined program, like program.
A little bit. They're the activities, they're the hype, they're the MCs, they're
they're that face of like the entertainment and the fun and also the spiritual side.
Which again, let me say, and I shouldn't say again, you can have two different types of program. You can just have guys that get up and just act the fool, which I think there's some times that you get up and you act the fool, or you can have guys that are like, okay, hey, I'm running the games and I'm doing this. You gotta find this balance of,
for sure.
I remember the very first year that I was programmed, my very first summer of camp, and I called my mom up, who was a 6th grade science teacher, and I was like, Mom, how do I do this? and my mom said something that I still say to my guys today and girls, because yes, we do a lot of program girls. But she said this. She said, Kyle, if you seek to get them to be your friend, they may not ever respect you, but you get them to respect you, and they will always want to be your friend. Now, you don't be a jerk about it, but you lead them and you love on them. And I was like, man, like that's so, it's so key. So from program side, what do you guys do?
Yeah, scheduling.
Yeah, sure. So basically when it comes to winter camp, when it comes to summer camp, the preparation for let's talk practical, let's talk planning games. You do that weeks and weeks in advance. You come up, you have meetings with your guys, or if you haven't picked your team yet, guys that you know are going to be on your team, you start to have those conversations with them. And you start to ask them like, hey, what do you think of so you start planning those games weeks in advance, and you start having meetings beforehand. And then when it comes to, let's say we'll do training week, right? The week beforehand, it's a mad scramble everywhere. You're gathering supplies, you're doing whatever. And then just when it comes to the everyday during the week, we sit down Sunday afternoons before the week starts, and we literally write out a schedule for every chunk of time that goes during the day. Because the really cool thing about being a part of camp is that, campers do have that free time, but even in the midst of that free time, from a program side, we're running sports tournaments. We're doing other things like that. And so our schedule from, 8 a.m. to 11 p.m. is pretty jam packed. So if you don't have a set, hey, here's who's going to do this, when you're going to do this, going throughout the day, then things can start to get jumbled. So it just takes that planning side of sitting down with the guys and being like, hey, we're going to talk about this. Who wants to run this rally? Who wants to run this game? Who wants to run this tournament during this week? And you have that whole week planned out so that by the time Thursday or Friday rolls around and something's happening, someone's not caught off guard.
And it's not just, and I'd love for you to talk about this, James, because it's not just, once you get it set in motion, it's just the same thing again and again and again. Yeah. Like week to week.
Oh gosh, no.
You guys are evaluating and reevaluating games. Okay, what went wrong and how can we make that right? Like, how do you do that week to week to continue to entertain your counselors who have been here for 8 weeks, but also fix the situations that didn't go well?
Yeah, definitely. And so we have games planned. It's not like we're gonna run this game, and no matter how it goes, 8 weeks of the summer we're gonna run this.
Yeah,
or for the winter.
You know what we decided? I guess we're gonna have to stick with it. Yeah.
Even though this game is not fun at all.
Here's the game.
Yeah.
Sit around and stare at each other.
Yeah.
This game flopped. Well, I guess we have 7 more weeks.
Guess we have no choice. But it comes with, you evaluate a game and you see the things that you can change about it. And sometimes it means cutting a game and bringing a new game in.
Sure. Which is a ton of logistics change.
It is, because you have to...
Logistics change, props change, everything.
Yeah, and you're sitting down with your guys, week 2, week 3, you've been doing these things, you're starting to get in a routine, and it's like, hey, I know we gathered all of our ideas together and we came up with this first game, but now we need to come up with something else. So you're sitting around a table and you're brainstorming, you're throwing ideas out there. And I wish I would have recorded some of the things that we say around a table, some of the things that some of the program guys just spit out. It's
throwing spaghetti noodles against the wall.
Exactly. Exactly. But then every once in a while, that's what brainstorming is. Someone throws something out and you're like, wait a minute, it's actually a really good idea. And then you build off of that. And so there was, I know this summer specifically, the first 2 weeks we played a big game outside, and it just didn't go well. Yeah. And so eventually we're like, all right, we're going to scrap it and we're going to change things up. And part of that comes with either creating a new game or using an old game and bringing it back or something like that. And so you have that practical planning side of coming up with those games and coming up with that schedule.
Well, and they, just to give you a little peek behind the curtain, I've been at camps where you go back and they play the same games every single year, not just one, but multiples of the same. There's a camp out in California that I worked with, and there was a game that they played. It was a special tradition that they played it. I worked at this camp for 3-4 years, and I was like, okay, we change up every other game. We need to change all the games. There's this one game, and the guy I was working with was like, don't change it. Don't touch it. Don't touch it. And I was like, no, it's going to be okay. And so I changed it, and there was like a riot. They were like, Monday, when we normally show up to play, sit and stare, we didn't play sit and stare. And they're like, okay, we're going to play Tuesday. Tuesday rolls by, Wednesday rolls by, Thursday rolls by, we get to Friday, and they're like, what in the world, man? Why aren't we playing the sit and stare? That's not really what we played, but but I was like, oh my goodness. And so now for these guys, my rule is you can bring one game over from Pursuit Camp that went really, really well. And you can bring one game over from last summer that went really, really well. But outside of that, you can't. And if the Pursuit Camp game was the one that they brought over from last year, you can't bring that one.
Gotcha.
It always ought to feel fresh. It always ought to feel engaging. Which is really hard even down with the upfront games.
Yeah.
Listen, guys, I believe with all my heart there is something about there's a comforting thing about not convenience. about familiarity. I know what I'm getting into. Why?
Yeah.
Because if you've invited your friend, you've gone, yo, James, you got to come. We did this. It was awesome.
Yeah.
James is automatically, to some degree, going to look for that thing. But if you sit there and about midweek, you're like, dude, we did all of this last year. It just gets lazy.
Yeah. But I think you're talking about a good balance though, because that familiarity, maybe 1 or 2 games or something like that. I remember the camp I went to growing up, there was always this bit that someone inevitably, they'd explain a game, they'd have, new games, and they go to explain it, and someone would always raise their hand, and the guy, it became such a reoccurring bit, but someone would always ask, what if a bear crosses the road? That was like the thing I always remember about camp. But there was something about like knowing that every year that the same thing was going to happen, that like, it was like a reoccurring inside joke.
Right.
Sure.
Is the same true for a game or 2 or a certain bit that you guys do at camp that kind of breeds that whole like, hey, I remember this place is something I'm a part of?
Sure.
Well, and I would even say,
not a rebuttal to what you're saying, but more of like a...
No, I think there is. Well, and let me say this, the program side is a large chunk of what we do.
Yeah.
I go back to my illustration that I've shared hundreds of times. There's only one group of people that are laughing and smiling in a scary movie. It's the guy that's chasing you.
Jeez.
We don't laugh and smile when we're freaking out, when we're scared. We don't do that. We laugh and we smile when we feel safe.
Yeah.
And when we laugh and we smile and we feel safe, we open up our lives to what is happening around us. I want to create a fun environment where kids laugh and smile and they set down their guard and they open up their hearts and they say, okay, listen, I trust you.
Yeah.
Share with me something, talk to me about it. So that program side is a very, very important, and I'm very intentional. And there are some people, and Josh, we've talked about this. There's some people that go, Kyle, you pay a little too much attention to that side of things. And I go, okay, I'm willing, I want to have that conversation, but no, I try to pay enough. And there's sometimes I come to you guys and go, I don't want you doing this. There's other times I come and say, I want you doing this. But that's because I want to see lives reach and change for eternity. And if I'm watching the majority of the room sit around and are like, this is stupid. Yeah. Now, is there something to do some stupid stuff? Yeah.
Yeah.
But if you're like, no, this is like boring stupid. Yeah. That's a totally different conversation. Absolutely. But Josh, the other side of it is the spiritual side. And you can get the pendulum stuck, and mercy umbrella for a second. Okay. You can get the pendulum stuck on one side. And I know there's some people like, well, is it bad to get the pendulum stuck on the spiritual side? No, but I'm saying if you don't have fun, listen, no, there's no evidence of it in the Bible, but you cannot travel around for 3.5 years with a group of guys and not sit around and just laugh with one another. Yeah. So try to tell me that if Jesus was perfect in every other way, why didn't he have the perfect timing of comedy?
Yeah, you have to. Yeah. You have that camaraderie.
And so again, you've got this situation. So on the spiritual side, we take months and months and months, and we're having conversations. Who's going to speak? What are they going to speak on? Does this build the process? Does it tie back to our theme? Yeah. Tommy Sewell, our guy up in Word Life Island, has done a phenomenal job the last couple of years making sure that the theme isn't just, when I went to camp, it was, okay, guys, it's the great adventure. And then we don't talk about the great adventure at all during the week. Nothing ties back to the great adventure until Friday night. And then suddenly we're back in the great adventure.
But there were cardboard cutouts of great adventure.
Yeah, tell me about it. And we design like a massive stage and then nothing ever. And so we try to make sure that everything, number one, ties back to the theme. Number two, that the theme is more of a spiritual theme to direct our hearts. But when you're talking about familiarity, the people that come to camp know every Sunday night, we're going to present the gospel. We're going to have an opportunity for them to respond. Every Wednesday night, we're going to present the gospel and we're going to talk about dedication. There are kids that come and that are like, this is the place that I breathe at spiritually. Now, can I be honest with you? I don't like that. Now, I like that they breathe here spiritually, but listen, guys, this is why we want to partner with you outside of camp, because I know so many of you want to see that heartbeat continued on. And so, the idea, I have some churches that don't bring any unsaved kids to camp, which is why I say all the time. And if you're listening, if you have an unsaved, to the best of your knowledge, unsaved, unchurched kid that needs to come to camp, I've got a group of donors that will let them come to camp for free.
Yeah.
For free. Why? Because we want to help you reach kids for Christ.
Yeah, absolutely.
But also on the other side, please don't just bring me all kids that don't. And bring, I want to partner with your youth group. I want to help your kids grow in their walk with Christ.
Yeah.
It's that
I get passionate about it.
No, man, that's fine.
it's
fine.
almost like you are a camp director or
Yeah.
something.
This is your bread and butter, man.
Yeah.
I get it.
Honestly.
Wait,
and
we have bread and butter?
Yeah. I have some prepped for after the.
yes, let's go. That's really the only reason I'm here today.
So we talked about one thing in the middle of that because we went on a little bit of a tangent on talking about all that, which is a really good tangent. But I have another question about prep, and this is the one that I think is the one that I've enjoyed watching mold and grow over the time of a summer.
Not grow mold.
Not grow mold.
Okay.
To shape
and change.
Yeah.
That was the wrong word, but
I like mold.
okay. So
That's wrong with mold.
comedy night. You guys do a lot of prep on games and like interactions and different events but there's one event that happens every year, and comedy night is the one that changes so much from week to week. And I've had the joy, I've had the month's pleasure of being a part of comedy night, and it's so much fun.
Hold up.
It changes every
Yes.
week.
But if you came, all right, and you'll notice the progression.
Yeah.
And
I see it.
You've been at other camps. You've been at other Word of Life camps.
Sure.
We have amazing Word of Life camps all over.
Yeah.
We love the Coach.
Best,
We love
best
Pursuit
camps in the universes.
But
universes.
have you gone to other camps that literally their comedy night is pretty much the same exact
same bits.
thing
Yeah.
every single year? And I know there's some people. We used to do this one bit.
Men in white tees.
Men in white tees. And it
don't
was
like
the
men in
same
white tees.
thing. I finally got to 2018. Man, if Dylan Franklin was here, he would know.
Dylan would know. Dylan is the encyclopedia of the coast.
I think I got to 2018 and I said, if you're going to do Men in White Tees,
Yeah.
going to do Men in White Tees,
Yeah.
then you have to do at least one more new one than you do old ones.
Yeah.
So if you do 2 old ones, you have to do at least 3 new ones.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the guys were like, "Oh, but it's so hard to come up with stuff." I'm like, "No, sit down and create and pray, but plan and prepare." So, talk to us about comedy night.
Comedy night is comedy night is fun.
It is fun.
It's so it's crazy in my 2 summers of doing this, the amount of time and labor spent just talking about comedy night. Because you go into the beginning of the summer and it's like you have a clean slate, right? Anything that you do for comedy night, you have comedy night, just like any other game that we run, just like any other element that we have on the program side, it has to be planned out. And so we go through and we say, here's what we're going to do for this. Are we going to have campers involved? Are they going to do a lip sync battle? Are they going to do a talent show?
Yeah.
What are they going to do something? And so you have that.
And what is Kyle going to come in at the last minute and say, "Oh, hey guys, you're going to do this."
Yeah. I can't stand that guy. Anyway.
Are we opening something up here? Or?
No,
Okay,
no,
okay.
but honestly,
just hash it out.
We'll hash it out.
Yeah,
Well,
let's hash it out.
my first, James's first year.
Yeah.
I came to them because a youth pastor came to me and was like, "This is the worst comedy night I've ever seen in my entire life."
That's a
that.
bold statement.
I didn't know that.
Do you don't remember that when I sat down with you guys?
I remember you talk. I don't remember that specific
Was he being overly
phrase.
critical?
Well, here's the thing there were multiple times. Okay, here's the thing with comedy night. There's 2 types of ways you can run comedy night. You can ultimately get off the stage and be done with comedy night and be like, that was terrible. Like, I didn't think that was funny.
Yeah.
And then you start talking to campers and they're like, "Oh, that's the funniest thing I've ever seen." And they start like quoting stuff that you said. I remember this summer, we were doing this skit in comedy night, and my goal was just to be a stop sign.
Yeah.
And I'm like, how does one be a stop sign? So I'd stick my hand out and I'd just yell, "Stop!" like in the middle of it. And the amount of and I did not think it was funny at all. I was like, this is so lame. And the amount of kids that came up to me and were just like, "Stop!" like for the rest of the week, I'm like,
Yeah,
like,
the things that stick.
But it's like comedy night. It's
never
just
know.
like it's like running a game. It's like you take the aspects of it that work and you keep them and you mold them and you try and make them better. And the things that don't work, you cut. Fortunately for me, in the last 2 years of being on program, we've had very, very talented, very, very creative guys who can come up with really good and really funny ideas. And so when we need to cut a portion of comedy night, we can very quickly integrate something else into comedy night. And so there's some like stress that goes into it because ultimately it's just you. You don't have the okay, well, if this game flops, we have the speaker to fall back on. Like our game might flop, but he's going to bring the word and it's going to be great. Yeah. Ultimately for this hour and a half, supposed to be hour, I'll say hour and a half to 2 hour block that we have for comedy night. It's just us. They get there, they just see you and they leave. And so it's like,
it's great fun. It's great fun.
It's a ton of fun.
It's also like you, how much do you run into where you look back at yourself and you're like, man, I have to be really intentional about the things I say. I feel like comedy night is a thing. It's a place where program guys and myself, I've gone up and helped with a couple like shows. You have to be really intentional about like, okay, am I being appropriate? Yeah. Am I making, honestly, there's been times where I'm like, I'll pray before I've gone up on stage and helped you guys. And I'm sure you guys have to do the same because you're like, man, what if I say something off the cuff? Yeah. And it's also like, hey, from the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks.
Exactly.
Like comedy night is the program guys like litmus test for like, hey, are you spending time in the word? Like it really is at times.
Well, and do you make it all about yourself?
Yeah, that too.
I mean, it genuinely is. If there's not, and I love the way that James said it, there may not be a greater test of pride in a guy's life to be able to step off stage and be like, yo, we just killed that.
Yep.
But it's not about us.
Yep.
Listen, I want my guys to know they are hilarious. I want my guys to be hilarious. And girls, I want our program team to be like, and the other, so there's 2 rules that I tell them all the time. You need to sell the sizzle, baby. Sell the sizzle. Sell the sizzle. Number 2, always leave them wanting more. Yeah. And that right there is the hardest thing in the world because you're sitting there and there's times, man, those campers are laughing. They're having a blast. And you're like, let's give them a little more. Oh, let's give them more. And then sometimes you have that line where they're like, and you'll lose them in a second. Yeah. Where they're crazy. Like, that's too. Yeah.
Well, I mean, because you're doing a bit and the leaving them wanting more isn't just, I'll speak comedy night specifically, isn't just about comedy night as a whole. It's every aspect of comedy night. So you do a skit. And the reason that we have our skits be like, preferably they're like 3 to 4 minutes long because if you start going, I say preferably.
I was going to say, I've never seen a sketch be 3 to 4 minutes long.
The one that you're always in easily goes 10 to 12 minutes every single time. But whatever.
Also, I never heard them say stop when I was up there, and I just kept singing. But
it's a ton of fun. But it's like once you get past like a certain time, it's just what was funny 5 minutes ago isn't funny anymore. Yeah. And so that's and it's very hard because when campers are laughing at what you're doing, you get that. Yep. That I don't know what it's called.
It's adrenaline.
You get that. You get that adrenaline. You're like man, I'm doing what I was asked to do. I'm making these kids laugh. Like this is a really great feeling. But you got to realize
sometimes they turn down the lights just enough that you can't see the crowd. Yeah. Yeah. And when you can't see the crowd, it's really hard to read the crowd. Yeah. But other times they have the whole lights up and it doesn't feel like a production. It doesn't. And so again, there's so many of these different things that kind of go into it. And like you're saying, Josh, you could have a program guy that gets up there and he makes it all about him. I every year we have counselors and other staff that just get hurt because we didn't put them on program. Yeah. And it's not that they couldn't be program. And let me say this, I've taken some guys that could be absolutely amazing at program and said, hey, I want to grow this other side of you. Danny Lopez, we should have him on at one point, but Danny Lopez is a great example of that because Danny is stepping into our counseling side of ministry. It's not because Danny is not hilariously funny. It's not because Danny doesn't have an amazing timing to him and skill set to him. He absolutely has that. Yeah. But sometimes you got to get stretched in other ways. Yeah. Yeah. And develop in other ways. And James is going to lead our program team this summer. And I'm really, really excited about it.
Yeah, he's going to do great.
He's going to lead it at Pursue Camp. Yeah. And there's so many aspects of this that I think tie over to, youth ministry and literally being able to step in and go, hey, I can help you run a game. It also has helped me through preaching, through just being able to go, okay, let me try to read the crowd. Let me engage the crowd. Let me talk to the crowd.
Yeah.
And here's the deal. God doesn't need you to be the funniest person in the world. God doesn't really need us at all, period. But he uses it and uses program in some incredible ways.
Yeah.
And that's why it is so vitally important to me. These people that I put up on stage, their character off stage has got to match or even outshine their personality on stage.
Yeah. Well, and I've worked in media ever since I've been with Word of Life. So 9 years I've done media for camp, and the people I've loved working with the most has been program because of how much that goes on behind the scenes.
Yeah.
And if props and what you guys do like for the Lord behind the scenes, people think often it's just like this thing where you're just up there, you're being present, you're just doing these bits. But here's the thing, like from the abundance of the mouth, the heart speaks. Like there are plenty of times where you guys get up there, and if you are not spending time in the Word and bathing this entire ministry, that's what it is, in prayer and in time in the Word, like you are going to fall flat on your face because you're going to do it for yourself.
Yeah.
And time again, I have worked with guys who have been very intentional about make mistakes, yes, but being very intentional about doing this for the Lord.
Yeah.
And so I want to say, like, working with you this past summer, I didn't work with you guys as much this past summer, really at all. But
you have that baby.
Whatever.
Well,
but I love seeing all you guys. And I want to say, like,
and
I'm thankful for that ministry.
And there's cool guy program,
Josh.
and there's hey, let's have fun.
Yeah.
And I try to help these guys understand. You will automatically get a certain amount of coolness to you because you're up on program.
Yeah.
It's the glint off of the microphone. Yes, it is you, but it's not you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember my very first year, my camp director came to us and he was like, guys, this is horrible. I will go find 3 other guys that will do a way better job, that will put the time and effort and energy into it. And it started to dawn on me. This isn't just something that I can work off of my personality.
Yeah.
Now you can work it off of your personality.
Yeah, for sure.
But if it doesn't come from a character, from your character, and so helping to build that inner man, finding people that are going to go and minister to counselors and come alongside of counselors. And I said, guys, you give those counselors a little bit of relief.
Yeah.
You get to help them. I love that throughout the summer, they will step in and be counselors for us, and their willingness to do that, and their willingness to not even step over and go, okay, well, I'll do it, but I'm the team leader. No. Most times that they step over, they're like, no, don't make me the team leader.
No.
These guys I genuinely appreciate
and
that.
I would say, like, for anyone who's like if let's say there's BI students listening, or people who are on camp crew listening, people have already been asking me this year as I'm stepping into this program leadership role, like, what do I do to be on program?
Yeah.
That's the question.
But I don't want to be on
all
program
the time. No, I don't want to be on program, but it's just like, what do I have to do to be on program?
Sure.
And I say this, I'm like, if you're looking for a criteria of you got to check off this, and this, and you'll be a program guy, that's not what we're looking for. It's, you look at how people serve in the area that God has given them. Like, so we'll start with how they're serving now as a Bible Institute student. Like, you look at their character. And then it's not about, because I can tell you 5 people that are the funniest people here, and I'm like, if I put them all in program together, I don't think it's going to necessarily run well. Why? Because we have to make sure that everyone that we put on program, that their character is for the right reasons of wanting to be on program. And not to say that anyone, it's just not to say that anyone here doesn't have the character program, but it's like, you want your reasons and your motives to be on program, because ultimately, not just program, camp as a whole, every single aspect that we have here, ultimately, we all have the same goal, and we want to see kids come to know Jesus, right? That's what we want to do. And that starts, like I said before, but that's with program. That's with whether you're working in the kitchen, whether you're in paintball, rock wall, grounds, camp director, office, camp store.
What would you guys say?
The YC office. It's from the...
Oh, someone didn't come to camp this summer.
Wow.
I guess I missed that. I'm so sorry.
But,
wait, the song.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I saw the
camp
song.
Camp crew Madrigal.
Yeah.
The camp crew Madrigal.
Yeah, I saw that.
YC office.
Yeah.
I just didn't remember.
Shout out to the YC office supervisor.
Yeah, shout out. Okay. I'm just dumbfounded.
So again, it's finding those people that are going to do that. It's also finding the people, and can I be honest with you, Josh? It's harder to find the second fiddle It's harder to
the person who's
find.
going to play the straight man. And,
To find the person that's going to say.
Comedy 101
and I
too.
tell these guys all the time. And actually, I don't know if James remembers this.
Oh, I remember. I know where you're going.
There was a spot. So every Tuesday night, I have the boys over to my house to play games, to laugh with them, because I can get pretty like, guys, boom. I mean, I drive them pretty hard at times. Then I'm like, hey, come on over to the house. Let's just laugh. Let's just have fun. Let's have conversation. Yeah. And at one point, James and another guy were like, yo, we got it together. And I looked at him, I said, let me tell you why you're never going to be a great program team. You guys are
okay. No. You guys said are good. Comedy duo. You
comedy duo. Sorry. Okay. Let me tell you. I said, you guys are very, very good, but you won't ever be great because both of you want to be the first fiddle.
Yeah. Well, that you have to have a straight man.
It's especially for this one specific person you're talking about. If you're listening, you know who you are.
Yo, but I still love both of you.
Yeah,
I still love both of you. Very much so.
But when we're on stage, depending on the guy of our team that I'm on stage with, I can be the second guy. I can be the
you can.
I can be the. I'll let them run with it. But when I'm on stage with this one person,
you guys both
we both want to be the funny guy so bad, and it can. It's like.
But the problem is they're both extremely funny.
Yeah, well, I think I know who you're talking about because this person is really funny.
Yeah, and it's so hard to because it might sound, I don't know, over spiritualized or whatever, but it takes just when you want to be that so much, you have to have such humility and recognize like, hey, okay,
that's not over spirit. That's just fact.
I almost knocked my mic over. Well, like the respect aspect of, you know what, I'm going to be the, one guy on our team always said the straight man or whatever. I'm going to be that guy who's just kind of, I'm going to be the Ethan Warren to Kyle, right? Like it's a
Ethan,
beautiful.
I think you're hilarious.
Ethan is hilarious.
No, but and so you don't know this. I don't think I ever told you this.
We got to wrap up though, because there's people coming in to have a meeting.
You guys left.
This is like the longest episode where we have to wrap up because I have people coming in to meet here in 5 minutes.
So you guys left. You guys left, and my wife looks at me and she goes, "That was so unfair." And I was like, what? She was like, well, you didn't like give them any ideas. And she was like, and both of them are hilarious together. And I was like, yes. So I think I came back to you guys. And if I didn't, then let me publicly.
No, you didn't.
Listen, both of you guys.
You did.
Okay. Did I?
No, you did.
Okay.
Okay, good.
Because you literally said, my wife said this.
Oh, okay, cool. So like I said to him, I said, hey guys, you actually are very, very funny. You guys do make a great program duo. Yeah. I said, but I think the next level up is you finding this place. I go back to Bud Abbott and Lou Costello. Amazing together. Mm-hmm. I cannot name one movie that Bud Abbott or Lou Costello did on their own. I'm not saying it's not out there. Laurel and Hardy.
Yeah,
they
play off each other.
When you go Chris Farley and David Spade. Now I know both of those guys did movies separately, but here's the deal. Not really well.
Yeah.
Why? Because when you have that team, when you have that duo, the thing I think that James and this other guy can do is they can say, hey, we could switch back and forth. But again, I'm so thankful for the way that both of them have grown their character.
Yeah.
It's just been awesome to watch these guys exude Jesus and show forth Jesus. And it's been really, really neat to see, Danny step over into preaching. I've already told James, I want to start getting him over to preaching. All these guys, they do all of our, the littles, the junior camp littles messages. Why? Because I think it's vitally important. I remember when one of my camp directors had said, it is important that you see a program guy be a spiritual guy.
Yeah. No,
and I'm so thankful that they did that.
Yeah.
Well, good guys. We're out of time for small group. Unfortunately, we're gonna have to move on to just ending the episode. I'm sorry.
All right, so let me tell you this very, very quick story.
All right, let me turn on the music. Let me turn on the music.
So last night, I walked into my local grocery store, and actually I went and I picked up stuff and I went back and I called my wife and I'm like, you ever have that moment where you're like, she forgot something else, or I forgot something else?
Sure.
And so I called her up and I'm walking in and I see this little boy and his mom. This little boy was 8 years old, and he kind of turns his head to just kind of taking notice of what's kind of happening, like a little, and he sees me and his jaw drops and he goes, you're the guy from camp. You're the guy from camp. And he literally holds out both of his arms and comes over and hugs me. And this mom gets the biggest smile on her face and she goes, he cannot stop talking about camp. And in that moment, it wasn't Kyle Gray.
Sure.
It was
camp.
This camp, God has done something amazing in my life. And so I just got to stand there and talk to this kid. And I said, hey man, that's awesome. And are you being kind to your mom? And are you learning? And are you growing? And he spouted off to me a couple different things that he's learned and a couple things that he's learning. And it was just a neat moment to realize I get to be a part of something special. We are not the special ones. We get to be a part of something special. And the moment that we start to make it about ourselves, we miss what God is doing. And I think we step in and can God still work? Yeah. I don't want a podcast. I pray there's not a podcast one day about me because my leadership, to quote a podcast out there,
The rise and fall of
podcast people.
I've never played something to talk about.
But his fame outgrew his character. And I tell these guys all the time, your character is so vitally important. And so let me publicly say, I'm proud of this young man, James, being a man of character, being a man of excellence, being a man of integrity, and just watching God work through him and his life and so many other program guys that if I had the time, I'd go and tell you all about him, but so thankful for all you.
No, amen. All right. So, guys, this has been an episode where we didn't really dig into a topic as much as we did just kind of like talk about the background of camp. I loved it. I loved hearing everything, how it works. And
register for camp.
Yeah, make sure you check out the coast, check out the island, check out, we have camps all over the U.S.
Pursuit camp,
Snow camp, Intersect in Ohio.
Yeah, come on, let's
Guys,
go.
Go to camps.wool.org.
Come on.
You'll find all the camps we have going on. And come join us this summer if you can.
We got scholarships, we got helps. Listen, every life reaching change for eternity. Seeing people take the next step with Jesus.
Amen.
What it's all about.
Well, hey guys, thanks so much. James, thanks for being on the episode.
Stack those chairs!